Hey, I don't know about you, but weight shift doesn't make any sense in the golf swing because you're not shifting your body, you're rotating it. Let's talk about weight shift.
The future starts right now. I made a reservation, but you never came, so I'm checking out. The fire you stole away. I know one day we'll come back around. The future is now.
One of the things that kind of drives me crazy about how people talk about the golf swing, especially instructors, is they use terms that are confusing. One of those terms that is really confusing is this idea of the shifting of weight or weight shift. Now, the reason that term doesn't work very well is because it gets misinterpreted really badly because it's a one-dimensional term. In other words, the shifting of something goes from one place to another. And the golf swing isn't a linear motion. There's obviously some linear movement to a golf swing, but the majority of a golf swing is a rotational movement. So we have to start getting smarter as instructors about using terms that make more sense, that maybe, and I know words don't always describe everything that goes on in motion, but we need to start talking more in common terms that make more sense. So I don't like the term weight shift. I do like the term stability because we all understand that that parts of our body are stopping for stability. They're holding their place. So stability to me is a much more reasonable term to discuss the body working in three dimensions. Remember, the body's working rotationally, it's in a bend, and it's in a side bend. So you have these elements of movement inside the body that move this golf club to produce speed. So today, let's talk about stabilizing the body as we rotate it. That's a much better way to look at this thing that many people call weight shift. So the first way to discuss this really is if we're going to move our body, we're going to move weight and move the energy of the body to one point to another and stabilize it from one area to another as it's rotating, wouldn't it make sense to talk about our platform? For example, the position of the feet. Because this is one of the things that kind of, I don't know if well, people take it for granted. They don't pay attention to the little things like the rotation of the feet or the position of the hands. And those little things are creating instabilities in the motion. If you don't have a good grip on the club, if you don't have your feet stable, how can you energize the club in a way that's going to produce an efficient speed, way to produce speed? So let's just go from ground up and let's talk about how the feet work, and then we'll work on some stability. All right. So as you know, when you go into the backswing, you're rotating this direction, correct? So you're rotating in this direction. Now when I rotate in this direction, obviously, as my pelvis turns and my torso turns, the stability is happening on the trail leg. It's on the inside of the trail leg. So you're seeing it on the inside of this leg. Now how is that happening? Well, the inside of the foot is stopping, the inside of the leg is stopping, inside of the pelvis is stopping, and I'm able to turn the pelvis that direction. There's the stabilization of the trail leg. Now, play around with this because if I have the foot too far rotated this way, obviously it's not as stable, right? My knee can go bend that way. Now I can get some too much lateral movement. The opposite, if I have the foot this direction, you can see that now the pelvis can't really turn and it's forcing it to be more shifting that way in a linear fashion. You see how the feet are now playing a role in the stability of the body. So I recommend that you take this foot and you definitely don't want it turned in. I want it slightly turned out, but kind of like you walk. Now I know people walk differently, but I want it in a position where I can stabilize the lower part of the leg and still rotate the pelvis on the inside of the foot. I don't want any rolling in that foot either. If you're seeing some of that, if you have the foot in a pretty good spot and you're seeing a rolling or you're seeing a shifting, you got a flexibility issue in your hip joint here. You got to work on that, right? Because we need to be able to stabilize the leg and rotate the pelvis. So there's one element of stability, and that's on the trail side of my body as I go into a backswing rotation. Now let's go into a forward swing rotation. So now I have the trail leg stable in the backswing, right? Now what's going to happen because of this stability here, I'm able to transfer the stability into my lead side because that's the transition. See that? Now there's my pressure going from inside to that knee. I'm rotated, right? So now I'm going to go into that knee. The only way I can do that is if I have pressure on the inside of that knee, inside of that leg, to do that. We've talked about that on my channel. So now, how am I going to get my transfer of stability from here to there? And see, now I'm going to go to a very stable lead knee. Notice my foot position has to have more rotation to do that because I need this knee to bend forward. See, that knee's not doing that. This knee is. So now this knee has to stabilize from, it feels like a little tiny squat of my leg like that, and I feel a lot of weight on that leg. So now that's where the pressure is going and the stability on this leg. Because what's happening is this side of my pelvis is being supported so that this side can continue rotation and my body can produce speed. Remember, parts of the body have to stop so other parts can accelerate. So look at the foot position though. And this is what's so critical about this lead foot, is that we have to have the foot in a position to where it's turned out so I can get the stability. And I see a lot of mistakes in this. I see people put the foot, they kind of ignore where their foot is, they stand straight out, and then they get this kind of motion, so they get on the outside. It creates a pelvis shift, pelvis goes up, and they're unstable. Or you can get stable, but it puts pressure on your back. So I want you to turn this foot out. Let's call it, if that was 45 degrees, maybe 30 degrees, 25 or 30 degrees, and then you can get that stability there. Now, keep in mind that I would rather have too much rotation in this foot than too little, because even though this might produce too much rotation, at least you're stable in a rotated position versus this, which is put a lot of stress on your leg. Guys who do this, who stand straight out like this and put stress on both sides of the legs, are creating a lot of pressure on their pelvis, because remember, we have to rotate the body. So once again, a slight bit of rotation here, stabilizing against that leg, a pelvis movement where I stabilize into the lead knee, then I rotate through that, and you can see I'm stable again on that knee. And making sure the feet, because the feet and the ankles are supporting the movement of the body, and now I have the proper rotation of each, I have the proper stability of each side of my body, and now I can rotate correctly. Lower body is a major stabilizer, and it's supporting how much movement I have here so I can accelerate the upper body, which is where most of the speed comes from.